welcome to episode number 6 of Chad's Adventures. Well, we just went to chapel service. It's Sunday, October 13th. Today is the birthday of the Navy. How many years is the Navy?
244.
244 years old is how old the Navy is today. And man, that is pretty incredible. Well, anyway, we went to chapel service on the base, on the naval base, and now we're heading to the inland to the next to do some shopping. I'm not sure what we're going to do from there, but we're going to find something to do. So let's take off and see what we're going to do today. All right, we're at the Navy Exchange, which is affectionately known as the NEX. So let's go buy something. Want to buy something?
Sure.
All right, we just finished shopping at the NEX, but I didn't want to share any of that footage because it's just shopping, and who wants to see that? Although I did buy this hat. And we're at the Maritime Museum now. So let's go see what they have here. Connor, do you like avocados?
No.
Well, San Diego produces more avocados than any other place in the entire country. Did you know that?
Nope.
Man, see, I'm full of interesting little known facts. Connor, did you know that it's illegal to shoot a jackrabbit on the back of a streetcar here in San Diego?
Yeah, it's a common problem.
I've never even seen a jackrabbit, and I just wonder what would cause that to be illegal here.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why you haven't seen any jackrabbits here is because there's a problem with people shooting them in the back of streetcars.
Well, no wonder it's illegal. Okay, we just checked into the Maritime Museum, and we're going to go on this ship behind us, which is the Star of India, and this ship dates to 1863. So we're about to go on board and learn something about it. The 212-foot Star of India was built in 1863, making it the oldest active merchant sailing ship in the world. At first named the Euterpe, her first voyages took her to India as she helped England with much-needed jute, since cotton was unavailable from the United States due to the ongoing Civil War. And here's the kitchen of the vessel. The cabin on the top deck housed the officers and the first-class passengers. And here's the captain's quarters. The kitchen. The general surgeon. Here's the dining area. The passageway to the top deck. A lounge, portholes. I can just imagine the conversation that may have gone on in this room over the years. The passenger cabins. And the first mate's office. This ship has 3 levels. The top deck, which is also known as the main deck or the weather deck. And the next, as we go down these steps, we see the tween deck, which is called that because it's in between the top deck and the 3rd level, which is below the water line and where most of the cargo would have been stored. In this tween deck, some cargo would have been here, but it's also where the crew and the non-first class passengers would have stayed. This ship had a rough beginning with near disaster. On her first voyage, she collided with another ship and the crew became mutinous, refusing to continue. When she returned to port, 17 of the crew were arrested for mutiny. On the second voyage, she encountered gale force winds and the crew were forced to cut away her masts. Then the captain died on the return trip and was buried at sea. Several years later, when ownership changed, she began 25 years of carrying passengers and freight in the New Zealand immigrant trade. Immigrants were packed on this tween deck during those voyages. Each voyage went eastward all the way around the world before returning to England. She made ports of call in Australia, California, and Chile. This ship has made 21 journeys around the world and at least 2 babies were born on board during those journeys. In 1897, she was sold and began to carry lumber, coal, and sugar between the Pacific Northwest, Australia, and Hawaii. In 1901, she was sold again. She began to carry fishermen, cannery workers, coal, and canning supplies each spring from Oakland, California to the Bering Sea. Each fall, she returned loaded up with canned salmon. Her name was changed to the Star of India in 1906, and she retired in 1923. She is the 4th oldest ship in the United States and the oldest to still sail regularly. Unlike many restored and preserved vessels, her hull, cabins, and equipment are nearly 100% original. And there she is, the Star of India. She's a beautiful ship, and some people say that she's haunted. Also in the Maritime Museum is this replica of the San Salvador, the ship that Cabrillo and his men sailed into San Diego Harbor as the first known Europeans to arrive in California. It's a 100-foot Spanish galleon, which is a multi-deck sailing ship used as an armed cargo carrier. It carried officers, crew, and a priest. Cabrillo and his companions were specifically instructed to develop peaceful relations with the indigenous peoples through nonviolent interactions. And as further precaution, they were advised to avoid contact with unknown vessels. Cabrillo saw and talked to many Indians during this trip, and he always made friendly gestures toward them and avoided any fighting. After leaving present-day San Diego, they began to sail up the California coast looking for more discovery. It was during that time that Cabrillo fell and broke his arm. So about 3 months after leaving San Diego, Cabrillo died of gangrene caused by the broken arm. He was buried on one of the Channel Islands, and archaeologists and historians have continued to search for his grave, but it's never been found. So in 1543, the fleet returned safely with the sad news of Cabrillo's death, and no riches or news of a shorter route to China to offset it. And the San Salvador made one final trading trip to Peru later in that year, but was lost at sea with all aboard. And I can just imagine what it must have been like in 1542 to sail up the coast of Mexico and into now California and discover this bay and sail into it for the first time. And, you know, I could feel the ship swing as it just tied up here in the harbor. What would it have been like out in the open waters? This must have been rough. Those guys must have had strong stomachs, or there was a lot of vomiting, a lot of seasickness. I tell you what, if you want the cannons off this ship, if I was Cabrillo, I would have an answer for that. I would say, come and take it. The arrival of the Spaniards into the Americas can be viewed in both a negative and a positive light. So regardless of your viewpoint, it was an important part of history that made our society what it is today, and many people share DNA of both native peoples and Spaniards. The ship carried armament to defend the expedition for potential threats, either by indigenous peoples or by maritime powers that happen to be in this side of the Pacific Ocean. Those weapons include the bombard, which was a cannon like this one, and also the swivel gun like this one that was used as an anti-personnel weapon. I just came across this cannon that's dated in 1767. Right there. It is really interesting there. You can see where they would hook to it and they can pull it. It's got wooden wheels. I mean, obviously this wood part is not dated that far back, but this part is the part that is the real thing. 1767. It's pretty incredible to see it. What was that? San Diego Harbor. It's full of activity. See a lot of Navy ships coming through here. commercial cruise liners, a lot of sailboats. Over this way, behind me over here, you can see a grouping of sailboats over there. They're docked in, and that's the airport behind that. So that's how close we are to the airport here in San Diego. Everything's close together. I like San Diego way better than I thought that I would. I knew I would like it, but it really is a nice place. The weather here is perfect, and the people seem to be actually pretty friendly. And there's a lot of military activity here, which I like, and lots of history. They talk about that California doesn't do a very good job preserving their history, but there is a lot here. You just have to go looking for it. And I just scratched the surface on what's here on my 3-day trip. So I'm looking forward to maybe one day coming back and seeing some things that I didn't get to see this time. So I have had a great time. I'm going to sign off on Chad's Adventures for this episode. We'll be looking for upcoming episodes because I toured several boats here. There's no way I can put all this on one episode of Chad's Adventures. So I'm going to have to split it up. We'll be looking for it. It's been a great time. I've had a great time visiting with my son.